Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. We're very glad you're with us today. It's February 26, 2021. Here's our agenda for the day. We're going to start out with some success stories. I know of 2 landings so far this from the past week. We'll then have everybody enter their information into the 30-second for their 30-second introductions. We'll then hit our committee reports, workshop, job fairs, pit crew, interview success workshop, the career tip of the week, and then we'll hear from our speaker for the main event today. Just as a reminder for those people, I'm looking, well, it looks like everybody's got their name in pretty good shape right now, but if you need to rename yourself, you can hover over the little camera icon and up should pop rename, gives you an option to rename yourself. Make sure your full name is in there. It makes it good whenever you're on any kind of these presentations, and be sure to click that little box underneath there where it says remember my name for future meetings. That way you won't have to do it every time you log in. For those people on Zoom, please just enter your questions into the chat box. That'll be the best way for our speaker to see your questions. And for those people who are on Facebook right now, please just enter your questions in the comment field and I will get those questions answered as they pop up. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and on the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, and if you happen to post a comment in the chat box or have your microphone or camera on, you give consent for your comment, name, and picture to appear. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. I have been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group since 2007. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over when the person who was leading it had gotten a job and said, who wanted to take over? I think I scratched my face. He said, okay, Jeff, you're it. So that's what I've been doing since I've been doing that for all these years since then. In 2008, I started Career DFW, a website to help people find everything they need to know about their job search in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I expanded it out to careerusa.org to help people outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I've written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It's available on Amazon for 15 bucks, but if you live in the DFW area and you want to drive by my house, you're welcome to throw 10 bucks out the window and I'll slowly, if you drive real slow and your window's open nice and open, all the way open, I'll attempt to put a book in your window as you drive by. Since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team, and we'll hear more about that in just a few minutes. Well, we like to start the meeting out with success stories. I know of 2 people. The first person I know about is Fran Lockhart. Hope everybody had a great weekend. I've accepted a state and local senior manager tax position with BDO. Thanks for the words of encouragement, wisdom, and prayers while I was looking for a new opportunity. Thanks again, Fran. So congratulations to Fran. She's number 20. She's our 28th landing for the year so far. Is Lisa with us today? I don't know if she'll be on the call or not. Lisa, are you there? I guess not. Well, Lisa was very excited to send this email saying, I've been waiting for 14 months to send you this message. She's been offered a project manager position working, I guess I misspelled that, working as a contractor for SmartLink, working on the American Tower Company team. She'll be a project managing site acquisition responsible for the AT&T mobility rollout of their 5G network. She's excited to start this new opportunity, and she's also excited to send Career DFW a donation check, which we appreciate. I also appreciate all the work that you and your team of experts do. So we really appreciate it. And she's number 29. Do we have any other landings? Anybody else have any good news to share? Please unmute your mic and let's hear it.
I've got one, Jeff.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
All right, so Margaret Martinez practiced on January 19th for a learning and development position. She didn't get that job, but she has taken a big job now with Genpact, Genpact, as a customer service trainer. So she considers that a bridge job. She's going to keep looking, but she's had some success. So congratulations to Margaret.
Well, congratulations.
How do you spell that company? Genpact? How do you spell it?
Genpact.
Okay, second one this week. Okay.
Great. Anybody else? Do we have any other landings? I'm missing out on these Krispy Kreme donuts. I tell you, I'm gonna have to drive over there one of these days. All right, what I need everybody to do, if you will, please open up your chat box. And in the chat box, we want you, or in the comment field on Facebook, we want you to put in your name, your comma, a phone number, comma, an email address, comma, the position you're looking for, comma, and a couple target companies, and then hit the return key. And what I'll do is I will copy all this information and I will put it out to an email to everybody who's part of this call today. For those people on Facebook, if you do that, I will be sure to delete your personal information right after this meeting's over with. I'll go in, I'll copy information and then delete it off of Facebook, so it won't be hanging out there forever. So if everybody will do that, and we'll put 30 seconds on the clock. You can continue on. If you haven't got the information in here, just please put it in. It'd be a big help. And everybody who, when you log in like this, I'm able to then add all these names to the contact list, to our agenda, or to our contact list. And that also I will send out this afternoon with everybody's details. You know, when you see somebody's name on there and somebody you can help out, you know, it's always a good thing to try to help somebody every day. All right, it's time to hear about job, career fairs, training, and workshops. Good morning, Eldon.
Good morning, Jeff. Happy Friday, everybody. The information that I'm about to present to you today comes from the website careerdfw.org, and it's the calendar tab. There are many items on the calendar tab. I focus on career and job fairs and special workshops or events, but there are other things on there, all color-coded for your convenience. The information I cover is covered fairly quickly, so if you hear something that piques your interest, I urge you to go to the calendar, click on the right tab, find the item, and usually you'll find a link there with more information or a means to register. So having said that, this week's career and job fairs, the only thing scheduled this week is another United Electronic Recycling event, and that'll be held at First United Methodist Church at 3160 East Spring Creek Parkway in Plano on Saturday, March 6th from 9 a.m. to noon. This week's special workshops or events. We have online networking Mondays, and this one, join Career DFW and CareerUSA.org each Monday from 1 to 2:15 p.m. Central for networking Mondays. There's a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that. And again, that's Monday, March 1st from 1 p.m. to 2:15. Online, LinkedIn Tuesdays at 1 p.m. This is a rotating seminar between Locke Alderson, Terry Sullivan, Ruth Lipsky, and Kurt Vondermatter. There's a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that one. That's Tuesday, March 2nd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Online again, interviewing Wednesdays at 1 p.m. This is hosted by our own Mark McDonald and Walt Glass. They have a 13-part workshop on interviewing. They're on session 9 this week. And the topic is demonstrating enthusiasm and changing careers or industries. Again, that's Wednesday, March 3rd from 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Networking, outside the box networking that yields results webinar. That's going to be held Thursday, March 4th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. And it's hosted by Jason Hopper, a career coach. And there is a registration required for that. So there's a link to register on that, and it will tell you how to participate once you register. Upon completion of your seminar registration, you'll receive a confirmation email. And finally, online Thursday, Resume Thursdays online sessions with Carol Brickell, Certified Professional Career Coach. And there's a Zoom link and a Facebook link for that in the calendar. That's Thursday, March 4th from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And that's it for this week.
Thank you very, very much. All right. Just as a reminder for those people, if you're trying to find other webinars, other meetings that are meeting online, you know, since we can't be meeting in person, if you click on that little link right there, it'll take you to the light purple calendar, which will show you all the webinar, teleseminars, radio, TV shows that are happening. just click on any one of those events and should have Zoom links or whatever you need to be able to participate in any one of those events. If you know anybody who just lost their job, I guess 730,000 people applied for first-time unemployment this past week. If you know anybody who's out looking, please tell them to go to Career DFW and Career USA, have them click on, I just lost my job, what do I do now? And when it happens, it'll come up a one-page article that has a bunch of links to some other articles that how to get started, some handouts, some great little checklist on, what to do first, second, third. So some really great advice here. So just let people know that the stuff is there. If you know somebody else who's laid off, tell them about the good information we have. All right, time to hear about the practice interview team. Good morning, Mark.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. And Mark McDonald here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the pit crew this week. By the end of the day today, we will have done 6 interviews. So it's back to Christmas, because right before Christmas, we had a lot of requests for practice interviews. And so I think that's a leading indicator that people are going to be landing. And of course, Jeff, I think we're up to 28 or 29 landings already, and we're only 2 months into the year. So, things are percolating and more people are being hired. Companies have figured out how to do this online. I even hear some companies are going back to face-to-face interviews. So come and practice with the pit crew, and we are going to help you do a couple of things. We want to build your confidence that you can tell your story well, and telling your story well means being brief. Every candidate that comes through the pit crew gets told they need to work on their star stories and they need to be brief, and it's counterintuitive that how much brevity is valued. So people believe that if they tell a comprehensive story and demonstrate their breadth and depth of experience or knowledge or skill, that somehow that will impress the interviewer. But it's just the opposite. If you cut right to the heart of the matter and as few words as possible, they are going to be much more impressed with your skills, abilities, knowledge, experience, everything included. So come and practice that with the pit crew. And then of course it's a video interview, so you can practice your video interviewing, and you get a video of yourself afterwards, so you can study up on what you did well, from a camera perspective, and what you didn't do well. So if you want to get involved in that, and there's a lot of interest right now, is you need to send your information, and your information is a job description and a resume, to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. It's right there at the bottom of that card. And it takes 2 or 3 days to set up an interview. And that's because it's very customized and personalized. So my volunteers who give the interviews are all hiring managers. They've been hiring managers in the past. And most of them are in job transition, just like you. They're walking in your shoes. And so we try to line up the best interviewers with your background and the job that you're pursuing. And we do a very good job with that. As a matter of fact, a lot of candidates are quite surprised at the questions they get from the panelists, the insight and the depth of knowledge they have about their particular industry. So that's what you'll get, a very personalized and customized interview experience. When you send in your information, also send in when you're available for like +2 and +3 days. That'll save a little time in setting up your interview. And we do them every day of the week. Occasionally we do them on the weekend, more or less business hours, from 9 in the morning to 3 or 4 in the afternoon for the start time. And yeah, that's how you get involved in the pit crew, and that's the value of the pit crew. I'd also encourage you to link in with me. So here comes my LinkedIn profile. So you can search on my name there. Don't forget the middle initial. That'll make it easy to find me. Or you can search on the pit crew. Just send me a note that said we met on the North Dallas Career Focus Group, and that's good enough for me. I'll add you to my network, and that's going to help you, find people in the companies that you're looking for. Most of my contacts are in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but I have a very broad spectrum of what people do for a living. Myself, I'm an engineer by training and worked in the telecommunications business for 30+ years, got laid off 3 times. At the end, the recession in 2000 started the decline in that industry, and 3 times. So I have quite a bit of experience. I walked in your shoes as well. And so that's the pit crew. And then let me say that about the seminar. So when we used to meet face-to-face, at the end of the meeting, we'd have a 15-20 minute education session. We talk about what came up during the interviews that day. And so now Walt and I have put that into a more formal, as Eldon mentioned, 13 sessions. So we got together and put down everything we thought you needed to know. And it turned out to be, about 20 hours worth of stuff. So we have 13 sessions. We're on session 9, I think. And it's about showing enthusiasm. And I have 1 or 2 slides in there about how introverts can show enthusiasm. And then we've had some new material for this cycle, which is, what you need to do to prepare for interviews when you're considering changing jobs or changing industries, right? So you might work in the same industry, but a different role, or you might work in the same kind of role, but in a different industry. So we thought you'd find that valuable. And so Walt's put together a lot of great stuff on that. That's 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And Jeff will give you some more information. That's the Pit Crew webinar. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, Walt.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome. It's good to see each one of you this morning. One of these days, we will get back in a face-to-face meeting, which is so much better than Zoom. But in the meantime, we better learn how to be effective with online interviewing. So what do? Well, I offer a different format for learning skills and confidence for these successful hiring interviews. And so my questions to you are you really prepared for a job interview? I mean, do you know what to prepare for that interview? How much time have you spent on interview preparation versus time spent on your resume? So the resume helps get us in the door, but getting the job is through the interview. So do you really know what you need to do? What do we mean selling ourselves? And how do we do that? What is it really? Have you considered what your greeting and your opening and your closing is going to be? Many people don't close the interview. It's a selling situation. How do we close the sale in the end of the interview? So I deal with fundamentals. All you really need is a job description because the customization is based on your responses relevant to the job description. But it's very, very informal. It's not a place where you have to squirm. It's not where you have to have anxiety and stress. You get to stop and think. It's a fun time together. We as well have some fun while we're learning, right? And so, do you know how to establish a rapport and build a connection with your interviewer? We cover some things on how to do that. Do you know how to demonstrate your expertise and your value to the company? Because people don't hire us to project manage. They don't hire us to do data analytics. That's just what we do. They hire us to do those activities that yield certain value and certain results for them. What are they? How can we express those things to them? So the workshop is free. I'm giving a special discount of extra 10% off if you sign up in the month of March. And just check me out on LinkedIn. It gives you more information about the workshop itself, gives you details there. It's my current position. And gives you also the email, thewalt_glass@yahoo.com. Just send me a note and I'll get you registered because you need to be registered to attend. I do it on Tuesdays, generally 10 to 12. I have a couple of people at a time. So we take some time just to go into the depth of these categories of questions and the differentiation we can use in responding and some strategies and some options and structures and approaches that we might use to answer in these categories. So once you have these fundamentals, you can then start applying them. And I would heartily recommend that you sign up for the Pit Crew. I would suggest that you come to the Interview Success Workshop first to learn those fundamentals. That's going to give you a better option and a better chance. And so every time you practice, you get better. So anytime you do that, you're going to get better. So it's called Learning Without Squirming. Well, today, let me find it. I'm at a loss here. Here we go. So you finally found the opportunity they hid. And now for the job you must bid. Practicing removes the downward skid. After each, you'll be glad that you did.
All right, thank you, Walt. Thank you very, very much. All right, it's time for our career tip of the week. Karen is going to present it for us this week. Thank you very much for being with us.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Today's career tip is understanding the new realities of job searching in the COVID-19 era. 9 months into the COVID-19 pandemic, the job market isn't looking good. The number of Americans seeking unemployment benefits remains at near record high, and only half the jobs lost to the pandemic in the spring of 2020 have returned. That's reported by the Associated Press in late November. Professional relationships can make all the difference, but leveraging your network requires understanding the new realities of job hunting in the pandemic era. Here are 5 tips. First, network on LinkedIn and Twitter. For the time being at least, coronavirus has changed or eliminated many traditional networking opportunities, such as meetings and events. Now you have to find a way to establish and maintain connections in the virtual world. As a result, social media networks have become more important than ever. Ron Culp, a consultant and educator, advises job hunters to spend an hour a day focusing on 2 primary channels, LinkedIn and Twitter. Devote that hour to building quality content on your profile and establishing good connections. Second, understand intangibles. Savvy job candidates have long made it a point to learn the qualities of an organization that are not easily defined, such as its culture, work style, and expectations. But with virtual interviews, you lose the opportunity to observe those intangibles. Job interviews conducted virtually change the questions you must ask because you're forced to gather information about those intangibles from other people's experiences rather than your own. Instead, use your research skills and network to learn those answers before the interview. Find the company's current or former employees on LinkedIn and reach out to them for insights. Review the organization's website for photos and other clues about its dress code and work environment. Read news articles about the company and its leadership. Virtual environments can also affect your job interview performance, so practice beforehand. Make a video of yourself and give it an honest critique. Become more conscious of your body language, posture, and facial expressions. Third, deepen your relationships. Now is the time to not only build and expand your professional network, but also to nurture your existing contacts. Meeting new people may be harder right now, but you can deepen your relationships with people in your network and ask them for help. Set up job alerts for the city where you live or would like to live and for specific companies that interest you. This targeted approach will give you a sense of the employment market and let you help other job seekers by passing postings along to them. When you follow a company on social media, let them know you're following them. Ron Culp recalls a former student who received a recruiting call from such an organization, not because the student had applied there, but because the people from the company knew he was following them and saw that his skills matched their needs. Fourth, understand what has not changed. Despite the changes brought by COVID-19, some traditional job search rules still apply. After you apply online, follow up. If you don't know anyone at the company, scour LinkedIn and find out who works in the practice area you're targeting. Then connect with those individuals and add them to your network. On the other hand, use caution against following up too often. If you're in an active interview process, checking in once a week may be okay, but confirm with the hiring manager that frequency will be acceptable. Remember that sending thank you notes after job interviews is still in style. Email is the best option since many people aren't in their offices to receive regular mail. Fifth and lastly, wear your badge of resilience. If the pandemic has slowed down your job search, use that time to your advantage. This is the moment to up your hustle quotient. Find limited gig engagements, projects, volunteer opportunities, freelancing. Do things that reflect your skills. Write your own blog. Make sure you're not regressing in your skills. If despite your best efforts, you still find yourself with an employment gap, don't worry about it too much. This is not the first time there's been a hit to the economy. Acknowledge that impact up front with a comment like, my career has looked differently than I thought it would, but it's been a good learning experience. This is simply a part of your professional story. Proudly wear your badge of resilience. Above all, stay positive and proactive. A powerful network is there to help you. The best way to find them is by raising your hand.
Karen, thank you very, very much. You can see the whole tip of the week. It's on the Career DFW and careerusa.org website. It changes every Saturday about 1 o'clock. So if there'll be a new tip every week. These are sort of those V8 moments you read and go, wow, I didn't really think about it that way. So hopefully you enjoy those. All right. Oops. Okay, well, we're going to hear from our speaker in just a couple minutes about keep your eye on the prize. So we'll hear from Stephanie in just a couple minutes here. Coming up, upcoming sessions. Next Friday, we'll be doing open forum. You've got questions about your job search. Hopefully you'll ask them and write them down, and we will answer whatever questions you've come up with. So next week is sort of a free-for-all for everybody to sort of jump in and offer their opinions and offer their questions. In 2 weeks, on the 12th, networking in a virtual world. And then on the 19th, communicate your self-worth, your emotional intelligence matters. So please, join us for the next few weeks. I've got great speakers lined up every Friday. Well, it's time for our main event. Let me get the bio here. Move it up where I can see it here. Our speaker is, well, I'm going to move all sorts of stuff around here. Just 1 second here. Sorry about this. Our speaker is strategic and experimental marketer with over 8 years of corporate agency experience in several realms. She's proficient in lead generation, maximizing ad dollars, increasing brand awareness, achieving ROI via brick and mortar and e-commerce sales. Stephanie is instrumental in building both strategic and grassroots multi-touch marketing campaigns that accrue digital traction and incremental revenue for small businesses and large corporations alike. She's the author of Surviving My First Decade in Corporate America, How I Made It Through My 20s in the Workplace. She's earned an MBA in marketing in 2018, and she's the author of several published articles and served as a guest speaker and panelist at many Long Island University's organizations. She joins us from way up east. So Stephanie, thank you for being with us, and it's all yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Jeff. And good morning, everyone. It's so nice to meet you. As Jeff said, my name is Stephanie Heyman. I am from Long Island, New York, and I am the author of this book, Surviving My First Decade in Corporate America, which I wound up self-publishing at the cusp of the pandemic last year. A little bit of background about me. I started out in the corporate world. I bounced around to a digital ad agency, and now I find myself back in corporate. But the interesting part of my journey at this point is that I transitioned completely from an office environment to 100% remote. And it has been a very, very odd, but cool experience, I would say. And it's something that we can all relate to, right? Really this resurgence of networking in a virtual world, kind of a seismic shift in everything we've ever experienced in our respective working environments, regardless of industry, regardless of vertical. I will say that I have always written on the side as more of a passion. Marketing is my main career, marketing communications. I had always toyed with writing a book, but I never knew what it should be about and what would really, strike people and make them want to read it. Well, in Q3 of 2019, I was about 9 months into my current job in the financial technology industry, and I was a rookie by all standards. And I found out that my company was getting acquired. And now for me, at that point in my career, I had never experienced that before. And it was scary. At the same point in time, on a personal note, my husband and I had just purchased our home and we were knee deep in planning our wedding. So needless to say, I needed my job and I had no idea what was going to happen. It was completely out of my control. So in an effort to really kind of boost my personal brand, just because I didn't know if I was going to get laid off, I had no idea what to expect. And I was kind of like hanging on by a thread. You hear, water cooler conversation, that's a little negative. You try to remain positive, but at the end of the day, the only thing that you can do in that situation is be your best brand advocate at all places in your career life. So I began to write down and just take note of these different experiences that had occurred throughout my first decade in the working world as a 20-something female. And mergers and acquisitions was something brand new to me. And I started publishing these articles on LinkedIn, just putting feelers out there. And I noticed that people started to respond and it resonated with them because the relatability aspect is that there are so many different scenarios that each of us as individuals experience throughout our careers, regardless of demographic, regardless of industry, that at the end of the day, we can all look back and relate to. So aside from M&A, I thought about different things like asking for a raise or having a voice, navigating difficult bosses, rocky career situations. And it really led to the inception of my book. And I turned 30 last year. And as I was leading up to that, the pandemic hit. And it just kind of, everything came full circle where there are so many things, both personally and professionally, that we all undergo. And the way that I spun it was in more of a humorous sense, because some of the things, right, we need to kind of look back on and laugh. And other things, there are certain situations that will occur that may be very tough for us, mentally and emotionally in the workplace, that years later you can look back and reflect on it and take away the key learnings from them. So not all is lost. The one thing that I really wanted to touch on today is the fact that we're in the pandemic. We are virtual. I know Jeff and many of you mentioned that the majority of you are from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and you would normally meet in person. So something like this, even though we've been doing it for almost a year now, which is crazy to think, it's still not the normal that we've all been used to, for the wide majority of our careers. And it's still something that, it's not the easiest transition, but I do think that from a career perspective, having this virtual availability at our fingertips, regardless of age, again, regardless of demographic, is something that we can all use to our advantage. When it comes to interviewing, a lot of us are having virtual interviews. I have friends and family members that I know have been searching for jobs at this point, and they've been exclusively using Zoom, Google Meet, what have you. And they always, I talk to them about it. And the thing is, you miss the face-to-face interaction, but at the same time, you're kind of on your home turf, right? So transitionally speaking, I know when I interviewed for my most recent position, I came in a suit. I came holding my portfolio. I came, sweating, nervous, anxious, all the normal feelings that you get leading up to an interview, because you're in an unfamiliar environment. You're in an office building and you're with people that you're really hoping and keeping your fingers crossed that this may be your shot. This may be the place that you wind up, your new happy home. But at the same time, it's not your turf yet. Whereas you're interviewing here in your home, wherever you feel most comfortable. You're like the home team. You have the home game advantage. You can sit in your bedroom or the comfort of your kitchen or whatever best suits you. And you could sit back and relax. And it's nerve-wracking still, of course, because you're speaking to people and you're having to kind of rejigger your talks depending on who you're speaking to and who, your prospective employer is. But at the same time, you have to remember that you have the advantage. You can dress nicely from chest up because that's all everybody sees. And like I candidly tell people, I would be lying to you right now if I said that I was wearing dress pants and heels below this. I'm wearing my fuzzy leopard slippers. And that's something that we can all look at as an advantage, right? And it may seem kind of silly. It may seem kind of, uncharacteristic to think about. But when you're interviewing from a remote and virtual perspective, it's really nice to be able to have that comfort zone. And it's something that it wasn't akin to us. It wasn't even in the realm of, concept from an interviewing standpoint in years past. I would say, to piggyback off of that, another thing that I have discussed is, yes, you may have the home team advantage, right? But you're still missing that face-to-face interaction. And how do you kind of circumvent that? And I would say that the best thing to do is to really put yourself out there, not just with your skill set, because of course, your skill set's important, but you're so much more than your resume. And I think that one of the comments I had gotten from a hiring manager in my past, that it was really the first time I had ever heard it. And I had interviewed for plenty of jobs. She said to me, you know what? Your skill set is great. Your education is great. But at the same time, you can't teach personality. There is nobody that's like you that we would be talking to. You are you, and you have to kind of own your uniqueness. So I would say, in the midst of interviewing virtually, sure, you may not be able to shake someone's hands. You may not be able to physically grab a business card, but you have a little bit more flexibility where you can sell yourself by giving employers a little glimpse as to who you are. So what if, I'm interviewing for a marketing position and I have my MBA, I have the 8 years experience, I have the creative and the analytical sides of the beast that the company is looking for, but I play the piano. And let's say I share that as one of my hobbies and my hiring manager happens to play the piano too. Now, all of a sudden I stand out as, Stephanie, the marketer, who checks the boxes from an experience standpoint, but it's also, oh yeah, Stephanie, she loves to play classical pieces on the piano. And that's how I'm going to be remembered. And it gives me a little bit of an advantage over somebody else that didn't offer a 2 cents worth of who they are outside of the workplace. Because I think if there's one thing that I've found throughout this past year, it's the importance, even more so, of letting people in the professional atmosphere as to who you are, because we don't have that kind of availability outside these 4 walls anymore for the time being, that is. We don't have the ability to go to these meetups. We don't have the ability to go to trade shows, conferences, things where originally you could grab a cup of coffee and sit back and talk to somebody casually for 15 minutes and lead to another conversation, lead to an interview. So the best thing that we can do in this moment from a virtual perspective is really be cognizant of the fact to be like an onion and shed a layer here and there. And it should be something that comes across naturally. It's not contrived, it's not forced, but something that, can give you a little bit of the edge. And I know in my experience, that has definitely helped in certain scenarios. So virtual is not a deterrent. It may be a bit of a roadblock, and it may be something that makes us uncomfortable, but it can be something that, proves to be very prevalent from an interviewing and remote work aspect. I would also say, and Karen, I love what you shared about the tip of the week. And it really resonated with me because I feel like LinkedIn and social media it's so much more powerful these days because it gives us the ability to network and build relationships 24/7. So like I was saying earlier, there are certain times where, you had an event prior to going into the office, couple times a month where you can network with people. I know my university brings alums back for, different kinds of networking events, and they're all well and good. But if you think about it now, we really have, even though we had it prior to, I think there's much more emphasis on it now that 24/7, you could be up at midnight sending people LinkedIn requests in different parts of the world. I connected recently with a group of students internationally. Some were from Zimbabwe and South Africa. I mean, I'm from New York in the United States, you know, we all are. It's just it's interesting how the pandemic has fostered this global connectivity. And not to say that we didn't have it prior to 2020, and we did, but I think that it's so much more prevalent now. And I think people are more receptive to it. People are more on the same wavelength about it now, where this type of digital networking has become paramount in the world of networking. The thing that I tell people is on LinkedIn, and I'm the biggest advocate of LinkedIn. I think it's an amazing tool. It's worked wonders for me throughout my career, but what's the harm in sending someone a cold message? The worst thing that could possibly happen is that they read it and they don't answer you back. That's the absolute worst that can happen. And I always think that beginning a conversation, taking a look at somebody's profile, especially if they are from a company of interest or just somebody in general that is in your industry that you want to connect to, there's nothing wrong with, "Hi, Stephanie, how are you? I took a look at the company that you work at and it's very interesting to me. I was wondering if you had a few minutes to connect within the next 2 weeks." And if the person doesn't answer back, then you know what, you move on to the next one. The point is there's always somebody else. And I found that when you are receptive to people, it kind of gets brought back and people are receptive to you, right? So you give a little, you get a little in that front. And again, the worst thing that can happen is that you just don't get a response. It's happened to me many times. I actually have cold messaged people that I worked with, you know, years previously that we didn't really know each other, but we had mutual connections, and it led to a job interview for me. And from that point on, I never doubted the power of just putting yourself out there and not being afraid about being turned down or not being self-conscious about, hey, this person has no idea who I am. Is this embarrassing? Like, am I taking too much of a personal risk by putting myself out there? And again, it's extremely uncomfortable and challenging, especially if you're introverted, to kind of take steps like this, right? But at the end of the day, doing things like that is only going to be able to help you. And the fact that you have this ability at your fingertips 24/7 on your laptop, on your iPhone, on your iPad, or whatever devices you use, it's really amazing how, you know, we take the negativity from the pandemic. We take, you know, this seismic shift we have all undergone, whether it is from, you know, a layoff perspective, waiting to get re-upped by your company because they let people go for a certain amount of time, things like that. You know, we all feel the negative effects of it, but from a positive spin, we now have all of this ability for virtual networking and the reception on that front that is only going to help from a next step perspective. One thing, in addition to all of this, and Karen, I feel like you touched on this as well, is it's always important. What I've found throughout my career so far is the biggest key learning I've taken away is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. And there is always going to be change. So for instance, as I mentioned, the M&A on my front about 1.5 years ago, I was sitting in my happy home. I had thought, you know, I had this preconceived notion based on what people had told me in the past that, oh, you work for a big company, you'll never get let go. Never. It's so difficult to get fired. It will never happen. Don't worry about it. So once you're in, you're fine. So when I sat back and realized that that wasn't true, it was it was a really heavy hitting change for me, and it was really, really hard to absorb. And I learned from that point forward where you don't know what's going to happen on the day to day, right? To anticipate the change always, whether it's in your current role, your leadership, a job that you're looking for that didn't work out, and now you have to pivot and you're looking at something else. It's so important to be comfortable with that level of uncomfortability, because it's going to make you rise up and build your character as a person and keep you consistently prepared for that change that is ever happening in the workplace. And like I was saying to someone the other day, this level of change and this level of uncomfortability can happen on an hourly basis. It has happened for me on an hourly basis with, a complete change in agenda for a presentation that I had been prepping for. Or it could be on a bi-monthly or quarterly basis where my leadership just randomly changed again and I have a completely different team that I'm supporting. And it's these changes here and there that regardless of what stage of career you're in, you could be 21 and you could be fresh-faced and a rookie in the workplace. You could be in your mid-30s and seasoned. You could be in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and the same thing can happen to all of us. And regardless of the stage that we're in, ranging from assistant to, SVP, it has the ability to affect all of us. And I would say, especially in light of what we've been going through for the past year, where this change has been the most radical, I would say, for all of us as of recent. Once you have yourself conditioned to knowing that change is going to happen, and maybe I won't get too comfortable or too complacent with what's going on because I know tomorrow everything can just, kind of uproot itself again. I have found that when you anticipate and you are prepared and you become what I consider a chameleon, right? You adapt to your new environments, you adapt to your new situations, you change your colors. You don't change who you are, but you change kind of your mindset and your emotional intelligence, your ability to kind of relate to people on a mental aspect in whatever situation you're going through in the professional environment. If you can easily adapt and change, not only are you going to help and show to your leadership, build your character in that sense to other people, but at the same time, you're going to have the personal satisfaction inside that you're okay. Like, yes, this big change happens, but I can make it through. And I'm just going to keep rolling with the punches and changing my colors depending on the different environment and the different change and the different phases of uncomfortability that I experience. And it's never going to stop. It's just going to mutate and be different things in different aspects. But at the same time, you'll feel better and you'll be able to readily understand and accept what's going on and then, move forward. And I know for me, it was a really tough pill to swallow, and it took me a long time to get there, and I'm not there yet. And I don't think I will ever quite be there. I will keep learning consistently about, adaptation, but it only helps benefit you in the long run. Now, one other thing that I talk about in the book that I think is really important to touch on, and this is just generally career oriented, is when you're in the midst of negotiations, once you land a new job and you've been there for a specific amount of time, or when you're in the midst of your negotiations for securing a position, I like to think about this acronym, TAJC. So when you're asking for a raise or generally negotiating your salary, it's a difficult conversation. You know what you're worth, and you want to make sure that that's conveyed in your compensation package, right? So the first thing I would say is to look at time. When you're asking for a raise, think about how long you've been in a certain position. Or again, for general salary negotiations, how long have you been in industry? How long have you been in the professional scope? What kind of background are you bringing to the table? What kind of longevity are you bringing to this net new company that, so you're getting what you deserve, right? Noting the time is so important. The time that you've had in key positions. Again, the time generally that you've been a professional in the working environment. And at net new companies, the time that you've been in your current position that is going to warrant that level of growth. A is for ask. And I know this sounds very rudimentary, but I think that the toughest thing that we all struggle with is actually asking for what we want. And that's not just in terms of money. I would say that's in terms of anything that you want in your professional career. It's very difficult to ask for something. Now, I would love it if my boss sent me a chat one day and was like, Steph, you were doing a great job. Here's $10,000. Thank you so much for your contributions to the company. And the only time that that's ever going to happen is in my dreams, because no one is going to walk up to you and readily give you more than you want, more than they are initially giving, right? That's just the way of the world, especially the corporate world. But if you're coming to the table and you're actually, you're building up the attempt to ask for what you want. So let's say you're negotiating your new job offer and they offer you $75,000 and you're like, it's great, but I think I want more. If you don't say anything and you sign on the dotted line contractually, you're going to get $75,000 a year. But if you say on the phone, I did receive an offer somewhere else that I'm considering, and they're paying me offering to pay me $85,000 a year. Can you match that? And maybe they'll go back to the drawing board and think, yeah, we really want this person. We are going to be willing to pony up the extra 10 grand. And sometimes that doesn't happen. But the thing is, you will never know if you don't vocalize it, because again, you're always your best brand advocate. Now, J, I think, is a very important one, and that's justification. So you have your time, you're going to ask, but if you ask, what kind of backbone do you have to support your ask? So if you're just, asking and saying, hey, I would love to have an extra 10 grand if you're asking for a raise, or, during your general negotiations, I want an extra $10,000. But you don't say why. You don't really give a reason. You don't have anything to back up what you're asking for. And it's only going to be better for you if you have qualitative or quantitative information about yourself or your previous roles or what you've done currently that is going to really, really bolster that ask. So let's say you want 10,000. Let's use that as the general example. You want $10,000. And the reason why you want it is because in your previous position, you led growth of over 10% year over year in comparison to what was done previously. You implemented 5% more campaigns and launches than you did a month ago. Month over month, you had this level of increase. Maybe you saved the company $50,000 by bringing agency practices in-house. Now, these are the things that you can write down on a little sticky note and come prepared to your conversation, so you can show the dollar amount that you've saved the company and what your position and your level of productivity has really brought to the table. And without you, conceivably, they wouldn't have had that. So it's always important to have the justification. Now, the last one I think is the most important, and it's kind of the make it or break it. And the C is for confidence. So imagine you're baking a cake. You have the flour, you have the sugar, you put in your vanilla, your sprinkle of salt, you mix it all together, you throw it in the oven. And then halfway through, you realize you forget the eggs. And that cake is not going to bake. That cake is not going to be, it may taste okay, but it's not as good as it could have been. And that's asking and negotiating without confidence. If you come to the table and you have your time, you have your justification, you worked up the gumption to ask, but you're kind of like, yeah, I'd really like another $10,000 because I did this and I did this and I did this. And it's just not perceived as well as, hi, Mr. Smith. I would really like an extra $10,000 because I have saved your company an average of $20,000 by bringing activities in-house. I have executed 10% more campaigns year over year. And I've led my click-through rates and my open rates for your email marketing have been up an average of 5% from a month over month and a quarter over quarter basis compared to 2020. I would really appreciate the consideration. I feel like I am doing a lot here and I would like to be recognized for it. And you can see the difference there in the two examples. One, you're a little bit more, you are more, I was more passive in how I described it, right? I had the building blocks to what I was trying to do, but I just I wasn't executing the demeanor for that purpose. And again, if you're introverted, this may be even more difficult, right? Because it's not in your nature to be as vocal and as commanding, right? But in the second example, I had the confidence, I had the presence, and I had, the brand advocacy for myself was shining through. And in those different situations, when you're speaking to the recruiter, let's say, or you're speaking to HR or the hiring manager, well, in all those different situations, when you have a commanding presence and you bring that level of confidence and assertion to the table, not in an aggressive way, but in a way where you're very sure of yourself and you know that what you're doing is very impactful. I don't want to say the raise will be guaranteed because nothing's ever a guarantee, unfortunately, but it definitely only helps push your request across the table. And I know for me, when I asked for my first raise, and granted, I was 25, so I was young. I didn't really know anything at that point. I had a very good relationship with my boss. He was like a big brother to me. He was 10 years older than me. We got along really, really well, and he always looked out for me. And I remember I came in one day, and I had started at my first company as a college intern. So I thought that they still viewed me as the college intern, even though I had been there 4 years. I wanted to kind of get out of that collegiate persona and show them that I really was an adult. So I remember I took him aside and I asked him to meet me in a conference room, and I had sweat through my dress. I was so nervous, even though I had prepared. I had practiced in front of a mirror. I had practiced to my mom before I had the intention of doing this. And I dropped the ball with him. And I said to him, I really think I deserve a raise because I'm 25 and I'm not an intern anymore. And that probably the top 10 worst things I could have said would have ranked real high, right? Didn't really come across well. I didn't have the confidence. I had no justification. I really was just asking. All I was doing was asking. And I will say that the conversation never gets easier. I've been at 3 different companies throughout the tenure of my career. And I've had this conversation multiple times at the first 2. The conversation doesn't get easier, and it's also dependent on who you're speaking to and how they receive it. And I will say that over the years, I've definitely gotten more experience with just purely out of practice and just out of, experiential learning in the working world. But that recipe, the TAJC recipe, has proven to be more successful for me in terms of planning what I'm looking to do and what I'm asking for than anything else. Now, aside from that, I would say one thing that I wanted to talk about that I actually spoke to Jeff about was kind of how my parents helped shape my career. And I will say that they were very pivotal. Well, my father was in the business world in IT for many years in the corporate structure. So I kind of grew up knowing that, right? My mom was a teacher. She was a stay-at-home mother for many, many years and then went back to teaching. So I was always raised with that mentality of higher education, of working, and there was never a point in my life that I didn't think I was going to work, right? I will say how they helped get me here. One of the most important lessons that they could have taught me, and I think it not only does this ring true from like a parental to a child level, but in general now, is the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And don't leave your happy home for something that seems a little bit sweeter at the time. So about 5 years ago, I left my first company that I worked at because after that raise conversation, which clearly didn't go so well, I felt that the next step to prove my success was money. And that's what I was looking at. I was 26 and I was looking for an increase in salary because I felt if I saw the dollar signs increase, then that made me worth it. And I didn't do my due diligence. I applied loosely to a handful of places, and I wound up taking a job in an industry that I did not love and I had no passion for. That was an extra 30 minutes each way from a commuting perspective. But I took the job because of the dollar signs. And I remember my parents saying to me, sitting me down and saying, you really have to weigh out the total cost benefit analysis before you make a move. We know you're not happy right now where you are, but does that really constitute dropping where you're comfortable and where you've developed a niche to go elsewhere? And at that point, I didn't want to hear it. And I said, yeah, of course. I'm only going to be building my career and building my career persona, if I begin this increase. So I started this job, and I was offered $15,000 more from a salary perspective, plus tuition reimbursement. And I was going for my MBA at that point. So I thought that I was on top of the world. I had made the greatest decision ever. About 1 week into the job, I knew it wasn't for me. I had this horrible, horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, weighing me down on a daily basis that told me I made the wrong decision. And sometimes I would go to sleep at night and I would really hope that I would wake up in the morning and that this was a dream. And it wasn't. It was my reality. I had decided to leave my happy home for a quick jump elsewhere just because I saw dollar signs. And I can tell you that I worked at that company for a total of 3 months, and each day was a struggle. I cried many times out of complete unhappiness. And at many points, I just wanted to quit. I was still living at home at that point. I didn't have, a mortgage. I didn't have real bills or expenses. I told my parents, I said, I am just ready to quit. I can't do this anymore. I just hate this. I hate this. And your job's your life, right? You dedicate, quote unquote, 9 to 5, if not longer now, in the remote instance, to your job. And if you're not happy there, it affects your entire life. And they had said to me, we told you, not we told you so, even though they were right. We told you to weigh the situation out with the pros and cons. And now you're in a bad spot, again, an uncomfortable spot. But there's no way that you should be quitting a job before you secure a new one. And I would say that is another key learning that I've taken with me throughout, my later years, and will take with me beyond that. No matter how unhappy you are, and it is tough, and mental health issues are a very, very real thing, very real. But to quit a job without having another one lined up is also not the greatest situation either. But back to the grass is always greener. It's not. And what I learned after that experience was you have to evaluate everything about a company when you're applying. It's not just, the salary is just part of it. And the salary at the end of the day, the salary is paying your bills. It's keeping you afloat. It's allowing you to save. It's allowing you to do fun things in life, save for your kids, take vacation, however you spend your money. But Your job, a job is so much more than that. You should be looking at your company. What kind of culture, what kind of organizational culture does this company foster? Are my values in alignment with that culture? How do I feel about it? Do I think that I would be an asset here just from an emotional perspective? Like, do I fit? Because you don't want to put a square peg in a round hole. I would also say total compensation package. Again, salary isn't everything, like I once thought. You have to take a look at paid time off, vacation days, holidays, paid family leave, things like tuition reimbursement, which many companies are doing now, which is amazing. 401k and company match. Things like this are so important, and they're outside the bounds of the typical salary construct, but they need to be taken into consideration. The final thing that I found to be the most important is take a look at your company or your prospective company's leadership. Stalk them on LinkedIn, seriously. That's why LinkedIn is there. Take a look at what they stand for. Try to get a feeling for them to see if there are any, is there anything on the wire? Is there anything from a press perspective where you can kind of learn about what their values are as a person? Because some will shed light on that in more of a public way. Or at least, what are their thoughts for the company? What is their direction? What are they looking to do? Are they, are they really looking out, just for the stakeholders? Or can you kind of read in between the lines, or maybe some are very black and white about it, that they truly, truly care about their employees and they want to nurture and they want to grow their employee community to retain them for years on end. There are some companies, and I'm sure many of you have been in these situations, as I have, that employees are disposable. And it's very unfortunate that it happens that way. You're out the door and they could bring someone else in easily. But then there are some companies that actually do their due diligence and really, really bring employee value to the table. And Jason, I see your comment, stalk on LinkedIn. Stalking, use it loosely. I would say you could definitely do, LinkedIn is there as a resource for you to do research. And I would say when you're in that status where you're taking a look at a company or you're interviewing with somebody specifically at a company, if they have their information out there and you are able to really get a taste of who they are personally and what they stand for, do it, because it's so much better to know ahead of time before you jump into a conversation or accept a position than finding out after the fact and saying, I wish I looked into this beforehand. So that really is the conclusion of my talk today. I'm very thankful to Jeff for the opportunity and to be here for you guys. I would just say at this point, and Jeff, if you agree, if there are any questions that you would like to ask me about anything that I spoke about, my book, or in general, please feel free to input them in the chat box.
So if you've got questions, please do. There was one, I just want to make sure I have it right. TAJC, right? Just 4 letters, correct?
Yes, TAJC.
Okay, because somebody asked, what does the I stand for? And it's just like, oh, that's not in there. So, oh, T is time. Oh, that's what they were saying. Would you let me know what the T stands for? Time, right?
Yes, T is time.
Time. Okay. Any questions anybody has? Going once, going twice. All right, well, let me, I'm going to pop up on a screen here. I've got a copy of your book to make sure so people can see here. Here's what the book looks like. Stephanie also has a blog or a website. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. My personal blog is bystephaниeheyman.com. As I said, I started out writing on more of a personal level years back. And my brand evolved throughout the years. And really, my blog and what I write about is really predicated on a raw, relatable level. I think that there are so many things that we undergo in life that really when other people read it, you don't feel as alone, or you have some kind of, you feel synonymous with one another. You have that level of solidarity. And that's what I really predicate my writing upon, is like the real life things that happen to us.
Okay, so that's www.bystephanieheyman.com. You can also connect with her on LinkedIn. If you send her a LinkedIn connection, please be sure to send a personal note telling her that you saw here. This is her book. It is available on Amazon. I just looked it up. It's also on Kindle. And I think if you have Amazon Prime, you may be able to use the Amazon, see it on Kindle for free, I think. So just, if you want to check that out, that'd be great. Well, Stephanie, thank you very much for being with us today. I appreciate it. Great information, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff, and thank you, everyone.
All right. So next Friday at 9:30, we'll be doing open forum. We'll talk about whatever it is you have. Any questions about your job search, just ask us. Currently, there's 60 some people on the website currently watching us on Zoom, 8 people on Facebook, and everybody here is experts. And you'll be glad that, you can offer your opinion and ask questions. Please bring some questions next Friday. For anybody who has not yet done so, please enter your 30-second introductions. We'd like to, in the Zoom chat box or in the Facebook comment field, please put in your name, phone number, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. This way, I'll be sure to get all your information. I'll put it out into an email this afternoon. For those on Facebook, if you put your contact information in there, I will go and delete it right after this event. I'll copy it over and do that. So if you've not done so, please do it so we can get you on the roster, and then you'll be invited and you'll get emails with all the updated sessions and things that we're doing. So if you haven't done so, please do that. Please join. We've got a lot of training programs that are going on today at 1 o'clock. Women of Wonder. It's a group for women. It was delayed last week because of all the snow and ice. They delayed it till this Friday. So if you'd like to have more information and join the women's group today at 1 o'clock, you can either text me, email me, or look on the Career DFW website, and you'll be able to find the details on who you need to email, because it's by invitation only. Next week, we're expanding from 4 days of training to 5 days of training every week. So next Monday, we'll be doing a new workshop every Monday on networking. Tuesday, we'll continue on with LinkedIn interviewing on Wednesdays, effective resume Thursdays, and then the North Dallas Plano Career Group on Friday morning. So next Monday, our first initial Networking Monday speaker is going to be Kara Bukel. She's going to talk about the secrets for effective networking. We're going to have different speakers talking about networking each week. So right now I've got 8 speakers booked. I've got 5 or 6 more people I want to ask to line up. So every week it'll be a little bit different aspect about networking, how to network, why you should network, and their points and their things. So every week it'll be very interesting, some really great speakers. On Tuesday, our LinkedIn presentation is about LinkedIn search engine optimization, how to maximize your LinkedIn profile with Ruth Lipsky. On Wednesday, we said before, session number 9, demonstrating enthusiasm and changing careers or an industry. If you're thinking about that, we'll talk a little bit about that on Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And then Thursday, our Effective Resume Thursdays. Join us for resume tips and tricks. And we will be giving away a month's unlimited use of jobscan.co. So you have an opportunity to win something. All these sessions, this session has been recorded. All our sessions are recorded. They will be on the Career DFW Facebook page, and more importantly, on the Career USA YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook. If you do that every time we go live, you'll find out about our current events. And the Career USA YouTube channel, please subscribe. Every time you do that, every time we post a new video, you'll find out about it. There's over 140, I think about 140, 150 videos on there currently of all the sessions we've done since COVID started. So we, people are going back. You're able to go back and watch this presentation, watch any of our presentations, and get more information from them. Here's what it looks like on the Career USA YouTube channel. Be sure to click on playlist, and then underneath, don't click on the video, but click where the red arrow is, and it says view full playlist for whichever list you want. And that way up will come a list of all the different dates and what we talked about. So you can find out background checks, job scans, Be a Better Brand, taking Clifton Strengths Finder. So all those titles are there. It's the easiest way to, go back and watch the title. And that's for any of the different events that we've got going on. So thank you very much for joining us today. Have a great weekend. Let's see here. Michelle wants to know more about WOW. So if you do that, the best way to do it is either email me or email me. You can do webmastercareerdfw.org, webmastercareerdfw.org, or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'll get you the information on who you need to contact for today at 1 o'clock. So thank you for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll see everybody next week.